The Mamdani campaign said that 31 of the 170 donors have proven their citizenship and have been deemed permissible by the campaign finance boards, and they gave 139 donors their money back because they didn't like, oh crap, that's illegal. $1, $2, $5. People on the left and the Republicans do regularly. It's thousands of small transactions that are hard to monitor, and they just come in repeatedly, basically from bots. It's like inviting somebody into your home who will murder you in your sleep and then steal your home from you. You would never invite them in. Why do we do that in our country? Under the name of like American values or something? That's not American values. To allow them to come in, use our laws against us, and then eliminate our laws that protect us. It's ridiculous. Criminal referrals for Mamdani. We've got two of these queued up here. One, as you can see, is being sent over to the Assistant Attorney General Pam Bondi's office with the U.S. Department of Justice. It's a criminal referral from this organization called Coolidge-Reagan Foundation over to the DOJ, the feds. Now, also, the Coolidge Foundation also sent a letter over to Alvin Bragg in New York, once again about Zoran Mamdani, saying this guy got some illegal foreign cash and needs to be properly investigated. And so let's go through it, but some background here from Fox News. They say, with 1 week until Election Day, a campaign finance watchdog group called Coolidge-Reagan, they filed 2 criminal referrals against Zoran Mamdani, claiming he received illegal contributions from foreign donors. But the Mamdani campaign says, no, all of this has already been resolved, and I'm not a criminal at all. A review of finance reports earlier this month revealed that his campaign accepted 13 Gs from at least 170 donors outside the U.S., and this raises questions because only citizens or permanent legal residents are allowed to contribute to political campaigns. These are not isolated incidents or clerical error, someone told Fox News. This was a sustained pattern of foreign money flowing into the mayoral race, which is a clear violation of both federal law and campaign finance rules. Now, the campaign was on notice for months that they were accepting illegal foreign contributions, and it did nothing meaningful to stop it. However, the Mamdani campaign said that 31 of the 170 donors have proven their citizenship and have been deemed permissible by the campaign finance boards, and they gave 139 donors their money back because they didn't like, oh crap, that's illegal. So the CRF sent the criminal referrals to the DOJ and to Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg is just going to throw that right in the shredder. While foreign nationals are not permitted to donate to American candidates, U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents abroad can do that. And so the referrals have now gone out. $13,000, and Mamdani seemingly is trying to fix it and may have done so, but were crimes committed? And does this warrant a deeper investigation? Here's what Coolidge-Reagan said over on their website. They said, here, we now announce that we're filing criminal referrals to the DOJ and to Alvin Bragg. According to the filings prepared by the president, his campaign accepted 161 at least contributions from foreign sources for more than $12,000, which is not a lot in the grand scheme of things. I'm sure they're raising millions. But the contributions came from individuals with addresses in Dubai, Australia, Turkey, France, Canada, Germany, and other countries. How come not Uganda? These are not isolated incidents or clerical errors, and this is illegal. FECA, which Trump got essentially charged for state crimes in New York under, remember, Alvin Bragg brought that up in his closing arguments. We read through Trump's appeal on the New York criminal convictions case, and they made the FECA a big part of the state charges. So maybe Alvin Bragg now can take a look at this and charge Mamdani, since he charged President Trump. And he's happy to charge people in the middle of a campaign, right? Like he did against Trump. So now that we've got another FEC violation, perhaps Alvin will get off his tush and do something about it. The law is crystal clear. They sent a letter over to these agencies, and this is from the Coolidge-Reagan Foundation. Let's get into it. Now you can see this one over to the DOJ. All right, Matthew Gagliotti, you've got a new message from the Coolidge-Reagan Foundation, whose mission is to defend, protect, and advance political speech. Here is a criminal referral for the New York mayoral candidate called Zoran Mamdani for repeated violations of the FECA. Writing, all right, Assistant AG, I'm writing on behalf of Coolidge-Reagan, and we now know that we got a problem with Zoran. Our organization is a 501c3 nonprofit committed to upholding and advancing the principles of liberty, including holding bad actors accountable for abusing our system. Now, we respectfully urge you to investigate and to prosecute Mamdani's apparent acceptance of illegal contributions of foreign cash for his campaign. Foreign financial support for Mamdani, a self-proclaimed socialist, he's a communist, is a particularly concerning given his public embrace of both Hamas and radical imam Surah Wajah, an unindicted invited co-conspirator of the Al-Qaeda terrorist of the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center. Starting on or about December 5, continuing through at least September 26, Mamdani accepted 161 campaign contributions from sources outside the United States, ranging from Australia to Turkey to Dubai. The total amount of this money is about $12,300. Now, of course, some of these people might be U.S. citizens living abroad who are legally entitled to contribute, but nevertheless, the totality of the circumstances suggests that a reasonable likelihood there is a substantial number of these that are illegal. Approximately 2/3 of the contributors did not report any verifiable employer. Can't validate them. Instead, calling them self-employed or retired. And moreover, as early as January 25th, Mamdani himself has returned approximately 90 of these apparently illegal contributions. Despite being well aware of this influx of foreign cash, it appears he did nothing throughout most of 25 to prevent his campaign from even accepting them in the first place. And now, moreover, it is unclear how many of the overseas contributions he has chosen to retain come from illegal sources. Now, the federal law says it shall be unlawful for a person to accept or receive a donation from a foreign national. The provision states you can't have donations or any of these things. It is illegal to accept or receive donations from foreign nationals in connection with local elections. Unlike most other provisions, this applies to you. It does not require that political donations actually influence the recipient or help the donor. The fact that you got the money is illegal. FEC regulations specify a person knowingly violates this restriction if they're aware of the facts that would lead a reasonable person, we're pretty reasonable here, to either conclude there is a substantial probability that the source of the funds came in from foreign nationals, or if they should inquire as to the source of the funds. The standard is satisfied when a contributor gives a foreign address, sends funds from a foreign bank, or resides abroad. Oh, it looks like foreign money. We got to validate it. Courts have uniformly held that the prohibition on campaign contributions is reasonably straightforward, citing a bunch of case law, Second Circuit, Third Circuit. This isn't a technical requirement which threatens to ensnare uninformed individuals. Pretty simple. There is no dispute. The general election for mayor is a local election for the purposes of the FECA, and you can't take foreign money. The term foreign national means an individual who's not a citizen, U.S. national, or lawful permanent resident. And these are critical restrictions. Supreme Court has upheld these. And so this provision is valid. It is an exercise of congressional authority. Now, the court has affirmed this provision does not infringe fundamental First Amendment rights. There's no compelling interest in the participation of foreign citizens in the activities of American self-governance. We're allowed to limit it. They don't have a right to do that. So the attached chart, as we can see, compiles all contributions that Mamdani appears to have received for his campaign. Each row contains the name of the contributor who provided a foreign address, the country name, occupation, date and amount of the contribution, number and filing of the campaign finance board, a bunch of data. Receipt of a contribution from a person who provides a foreign address is deemed sufficient to put the recipient, Mamdani, on notice of a substantial probability under the law. The Code of Federal Regulations says that it originated from a foreign national. So it's reasonable to conclude many, if not most of these funds were provided through a foreign bank, which further bolsters notice that they came from foreign nationals. Now, an FEC violation is complete once the money is received upon receipt, regardless of the fact that they were refunded. Okay, it's a technical violation even if you gave the money back. Moreover, Mamdani's continued receipt of numerous contributions, likely from these people, throughout the 9-month period shows a systemic failure to comply with the requirements. And there's a benefit. Even if you give the money back, you can say, well, look at all these donors we had. You got in campaign. We got thousands of donors. We raised tens of thousands of dollars. Even if you give it back, you can still come out and make those claims, especially at the early part of the campaign when you're not making a bunch of money. You need to bump those numbers up. So there's a value to that. Please feel free to reach out. If our organization, says Dan, can give any more information about these election crimes, and we have a duty to protect the integrity of American elections, prevent foreign nationals from influencing our elections, and stop Mamdani from benefiting from illegal campaign contributions, courtesy of Dan Becker. Wow, and look at these interesting names. $1, $2, $5. People on the left and the Republicans do regularly. It's thousands of small transactions that are hard to monitor, and they just come in repeatedly, basically from bots. Robert Bickley in Vancouver. James Blomeris from Sweden. Some of those make sense. Jake Busey from England. We have Jake Busey's over there. Cameron Chan from Australia. Lots of names. All right, so you get the point. This guy's self-employed, lots of small donos. This is a big one. $2,100 here from Joel Feynman, University of Victoria. $2,100. That's a big one. James Furlod, another one from Australia. $2,100. London, Sweden, Dubai, Tariq Halim, Hashim, $100. Another unemployed with $10. Helsinki, Finland, Berlin. Okay, lots of donos. So they're calculating them all, sending them in. Students, not employed, unemployed, all of that going going in. Even New York election code. You prosecuted Trump even for the possibility of violating New York election code. The jurors didn't even have to agree that he did. They could have said it was a tax violation, it was a state election code violation, or it was a federal election code violation. Alvin prosecuted Trump for that one in the middle of a campaign. The evidence also suggests that Mamdani and his staff may have unlawfully conspired to promote his election through unlawful means. Exactly what we saw them do against Trump. The rule says you can't have contributions from foreign nationals, and they're not really appearing to implement any regulations or case law to thin out the thick sauce of this provision. And the rule says you can't take this money. It's unlawful for foreigners to donate to local races. Now, the critical FEC restriction also ensures that these foreign nationals don't influence our elections. Here are all the donors that made contributions to Mamdani, and here you go. Alvin, remember, your office has previously taken upon itself to enforce federal restrictions under the guise of state law in a presidential election, bringing dubious charges against President Trump based on his not violating federal law by using campaign funds to pay off a blackmailing prostitute for spreading malicious lies about him. Beautiful. Your office should make an effort toward presenting at least an illusion of objectivity, nonpartisanship, and even-handedness in pursuing Mamdani's apparent and actual violations of state and federal law, even to the extent that they arise in part from the FECA restrictions, which he prosecuted Trump exactly for this. Now, we encourage Alvin in your office to thoroughly investigate these violations to protect the integrity of New York, prevent foreign nationals from influencing them, and stop Mamdani from benefiting from illegal campaign contributions, which is what they said that Trump was giving to Stormy. He paid her off through Michael Cohen, allegedly, and that was a campaign benefit. Should have reported that as a campaign expenditure, and now it's a campaign contribution to him that he didn't report. There's a crime. Same thing's happening here. Dan Backer calling out Alvin Bragg. We'll see if that ultimately happens, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that one because Alvin Bragg is not an objective, even-handed prosecutor. He's a partisan hack. Now, there's also other efforts to deport Mamdani. Andy Ogles says, I just sent another letter to Pam Bondi, and we got to get rid of Mamdani. He posted this. I have just sent another letter to Bondi, in addition to this other criminal referral, urging her to investigate Mamdani's naturalization documents, which were fraudulent. He could very well be made mayor of New York City in less than 2 weeks, and he probably will. We have no time to waste. In 2017, he was a public supporter of the totalitarian DSA, Democrat Socialist of America, praised terrorists, openly despised the U.S. Constitution. Those views must be disclosed during naturalization. You got to say, I'm a communist, if you're a communist, on your naturalization documents. There's a box for it. And if they were withheld, if you lied, you're fraudulent, just like any other contract that you lie on. That's a federal crime. If we deport Mamdani for breaking real laws, we can save New York City and take back our country from the Marxists who want to reduce America to a third world wasteland. And why should naturalized citizens get the benefit of their fraud? Nobody else gets the benefit of their fraud. If you write a fraudulent check and it gets cashed and you get discovered, you don't get to keep the cash. Okay, you get prosecuted and thrown in prison. As long as you get in the door, then we can't kick you out. No, not appropriate at all. We do not need to be importing Marxists who lie on their forms and then go and capitalize sanctuary city demographics to get elected to wreck our Constitution. It's like inviting somebody into your home who will murder you in your sleep and then steal your home from you. You would never invite them in. Why do we do that in our country? Under the name of like American values or something? That's not American values. To allow them to come in, use our laws against us, and then eliminate our laws that protect us. It's ridiculous. So he said this, Dear Attorney General Bondi, I write to follow up on my June 26 letter requesting the DOJ investigate Zoran. He's currently a candidate for mayor. He should be subject, whether this should happen, to denaturalization proceedings under the law, which actually there's a process for that, for possible willful misrepresentation and concealment of material facts during his naturalization process. And we want good, values-aligned individuals who bring benefits and add to America. We don't want people who are negative to the country in terms of values, productivity. We don't need to import a bunch of people to put them on food stamps and give them hotel rooms in the Roosevelt Hotel, which probably was a pretty iconic place to stay until it got invaded by illegals. Since that initial inquiry, additional public reporting has raised further concerns about Mamdani's past statements and his associations, including his refusal to disavow violent anti-American rhetoric and continued public praise for individuals convicted of providing material support to Hamas. These developments, documented in the New York Post and other outlets, suggest a broader pattern of conduct inconsistent with his oath of allegiance that is required of new citizens. citizens. The American people expect equal enforcement of our immigration laws, particularly when potential ties to designated terrorist organizations are involved. No individual, regardless of political office or public profile, should be shielded from accountability if credible evidence indicates deception or concealment during the citizenship process. I again urge the department to open a formal investigation into whether Mamdani and his public expressions of support for the Holy Land Foundation's convicted leadership and his ongoing rhetoric sympathetic to anti-Israel and anti-US movements were disclosed as required during his naturalization. I don't know what anti-Israel has to do with that, if he's coming into America naturalization. Were disclosed as required during his naturalization. Failure to disclose those affiliations would constitute a material misrepresentation under federal law. If he supports terrorists, that's enough. We'd want to know that before we import you into our country. But the United States must uphold the integrity of its citizens' process and ensure that those who seek to represent the public meet the highest standards of loyalty to this nation. I respectfully request the DOJ provide an update on whether an inquiry has been initiated, the scope of that inquiry, and the steps being taken to determine whether denaturalization proceedings are warranted. Sincerely, Andy Ogles, Member of Congress.